Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're diving into this huge kind of weird paradox right at the heart of the global economy. See, on one hand, the world is swimming in oil, but on the other, experts are saying we're hurtling towards a massive supply crisis. We're going to explore why that's happening and how a whole new technological revolution is completely rewriting the rules of energy and power.
All right, so let's just start with right now. If you look at the world in 2026, the energy market seems, well, pretty calm. Deceptively calm, you could say. There's a comfortable surplus of oil, which is keeping prices stable and supply chains humming along. On the surface, everything looks just fine.
But, and this is the big but, beneath that calm surface, you've got a whole bunch of experts basically sounding the alarm. They're warning about a massive supply crisis that could hit us in the 2030s. So how is that even possible? How can we have too much oil today and a massive shortage just a few years from now? That's the core paradox we're here to unpack.
Okay, so how is this crisis actually starting to form? Well, the problem isn't what we have today, it's about tomorrow. And it all kicks off with this quiet but really dramatic collapse in investment. You know, the money that's needed to find and develop the next generation of oil fields. Yeah, think of it like this. Today's surplus, it's giving everyone this incredibly dangerous false sense of security. You know, prices are stable, there's plenty of oil to go around, so who's in a rush to spend billions on these massive, decade-long projects to find more? The urgency just isn't there. And that short-term thinking is exactly what's setting us up for a huge supply shock down the line. And wow, this chart, this really just lays it all out, doesn't it? Before the big oil price crash in 2014, the world was finding about 20 billion barrels of new oil every single year. Today, that number is absolutely cratered. We're down to just 5.5 billion. It's like we're just draining the tank and barely even thinking about how to refill it. And it's a total double whammy. It's not just that we're not finding new oil, it's that our existing wells are starting to run dry. I mean, get this. A staggering 90% of the oil we use right now comes from fields that are way past their prime. Their output is just naturally dropping by about 5 to 8%, year after year after year.
Okay, so you might be thinking, what about the American shale boom? Can't that just fill the gap? Well, the hard reality is no. It just can't keep up forever. Shale wells are amazing at first, but they burn out incredibly fast. We're talking a 60 to 70% drop in output in just the first year sometimes. It's like trying to fill a bathtub that has a massive hole in it with a tiny cup. Eventually, that decline is going to win.
So this huge supply gap that's coming, it's putting immense pressure on everyone to innovate, and fast. And what that's doing is kicking off this global race to develop and master a whole new generation of energy technologies, stuff that could completely reshape our world.
First on the list, green hydrogen. The idea here is actually pretty simple, but it's totally revolutionary. You take clean electricity, think wind or solar, and you use it to split water molecules. And what you get is this powerful, clean-burning fuel. You can use it for almost anything from heavy industry to shipping. You're basically bottling sunshine and wind.
So, who's winning this race right now? Well, this chart tells a really powerful story. China is already just a dominant force. They control a mind-boggling 60% of the entire global manufacturing capacity for electrolyzers. And that's the key piece of tech you need to make green hydrogen. How'd they do it? Massive state investment and a laser focus on dominating the future of energy.
All right, next up, let's talk about carbon capture, or CCS. This is a big one. This tech is designed to clean up the industries that are really, really hard to decarbonize, like making cement or steel. It basically works like a giant filter, trapping CO2 right at the source and then storing it safely underground before it ever gets into the atmosphere. And you gotta understand, this isn't some small-scale science project anymore. This is scaling up, and it's scaling up fast. What used to be a few pilot projects is now being talked about as a potential trillion-dollar industry. Just in the past year, the number of operational CCS projects jumped by 54%. We're seeing massive hubs firing up in places like the US and the Middle East. And finally, let's look at e-fuels. So think about things like airplanes and massive container ships. You can't just plug those into a wall, right? Well, these synthetic fuels are an incredible potential solution. You combine that green hydrogen we talked about with captured CO2, and poof, you get a liquid fuel that works in the engines we already have, but with a tiny carbon footprint.
So when you put all of this together, all this innovation, it's pointing to this massive fundamental shift in what we even mean by energy power. The whole global game is changing. It's not about controlling what's under the ground anymore. It's about mastering what's being built in the lab, on the whiteboard.
Just look at this timeline. For more than 150 years, global power has been directly tied to who controls the oil fields. I mean, from the very first commercial well way back when, to the petrodollar system, to the American shale revolution, geopolitics has all revolved around one question: who's got the oil? But look at that very last entry, 2026. This is where the pivot begins.
So what does this really mean? It means the very foundation of global power is shifting under our feet. It's not about where you are on the map or if you got lucky with geology anymore. It's about innovation. It's about efficiency, intellectual property. The new arms race isn't about weapons. It's a tech race. It's about mastering energy conversion technology.
And all of this brings us to the big final question, right? As the rules of this game totally change, who's in the best position to lead this new era? Who's going to wield real energy power in the decades to come?
It's pretty simple. In the old world, power meant having huge oil reserves. In this new world, power means leading in technology. And if you look around right now, the clear frontrunners, the ones pouring money into R&D and actually deploying this stuff, are the United States and China. The big takeaway here is this: the ability to innovate is becoming way more valuable than the ability to drill.
And that's really the thought I want to leave you with. For over a century, the story of energy was written by the people who control the oil wells. But now, a brand new chapter is starting. One that's going to be defined by tech labs, not oil fields. And the race to write that new chapter, it's already started.